All right, we're recording. TST meeting on, what is today, the 15th? So we have a collaborative agreement, but I have not seen anyone from Arcent online yet. So let's start with the other item, which is the composer proposal. This is a project proposal, and so this was circulated a few days ago. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it. Peter and I have added a little material at the end to address some of the technicalities on who the people are and the resources and so on. And let me just hand the mic off to Peter to talk about the idea of the proposal.
All right, thanks, Larry. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, great. Yeah, so this is an effort that we've been, well, more or less talking about for some time. We officially kicked it off several months back in July. And so the overall initiative in terms of what we wanted to achieve as part of this project was largely to be able to apply the models. So as you guys are probably familiar with the Cord platform and its platform backing as supported by the XOS control system, many of the constructs in how we are solving the challenge around making the platform be composable, meaning we have the platform and the level of abstractions that are being provided that essentially services the variety of service capabilities that we want to be able to flexibly onboard and be able to piece them together and more or less kind of dynamically based on different types of things you want to have the platform to be able to do. And we recognize that we wanted to apply a lot of the operational learnings that have been in place as the XOS system has evolved over time, and to kind of take a fresh look at how do we best express a lot of the constructs, the abstraction models and the control models and such, and to apply a more rigorous language such as Yang to be able to describe a lot of the essence of what's inside the system. So we started the effort, and we quickly realized that the efforts kind of serves many different benefits. One is, as been documented here, it helps us to see more clearly what are the relationships that has been more or less baked into the operational models over time, and helps us to better visualize and organize some of these abstraction constructs, and to rebind some of those relationships between the core abstraction models that best creates cohesion in terms of how the service may want to interface and be able to do so in a more flexible fashion. The other aspects are that a lot of the models, because they tend to be implementation language specific, meaning for XOS case, it was developed purely based on the Django framework. For folks who are not familiar with either Python or Django framework, could have a bit of a difficulty trying to follow and be able to actually try things out and to see how their service models and their implementation may fit into, and how they may be able to essentially integrate into that platform. So we wanted to have a way in which we could improve collaboration and be able to allow folks who are maybe perhaps not developers themselves to be able to experiment and to be able to try the different types of constructs, because the essence of the platform and its flexibility and power is really in the models that is being represented, and we wanted to somehow make that experience more streamlined for folks that may not be so familiar with some of the development framework technologies. So that's one of those key key values. And as part of this exercise, we learned quite a bit, and we're hoping that some of those exercises will then translate also into the implementations themselves to help us better guide how some of those changes may need to be done to better capture some of the spirit of a lot of these models. The second outcome that came out of this project initiative was that we quickly realized when we can capture the essence of the variety of models and abstractions in a more of a programming language agnostic way, such as using Yang, we're able to utilize some of those tooling capabilities to have an emulation type environment. And I think it's a very key point to kind of highlight what this really means. So oftentimes, in order for someone to be able to, let's say, onboard a service or try something new in a Cord-based platform, they need to go through the overall exercise of bringing up a Cord in a box, or may depend on a lot of different actual working components, such as having a real IIS stack or OpenStack, or there's quite a bit of dependencies in terms of things that need to be deployed, tested, and verified, just so that you could then have a successful build, so that you could actually do any development on it. I mean, obviously, some of those development dependencies vary based on exactly what you're trying to test and verify. But the basics are there in that you kind of need to have something functional in order for you to test something experimental, and we wanted to be able to kind of streamline that process. So one of the other benefits of applying a model-based approach first is that it gives us an emulation of what the system should look like and behave like without actually having the actual system. So by having the models about the platform, models about the XOS control systems, models about the apps that they're trying to interact with, as well as the models about the services themselves, you could actually perform a full service onboarding exercise just on your laptop or on a development environment without it actually driving any real workload in terms of needing a real OpenStack or a real hardware layer, et cetera, because basically the models give you the emulation as if those things are real. I mean, these are all just logical constructs at the end of the day anyways. These are all the software running on tons of things. So it actually provides a nice way in which you could quickly try new concepts, because the key in a lot of these design and architecture questions is really about getting the models right, and right might not be the good word, but just being able to make good models. And it takes experimentation and having the implementation overhead of actually having to have a working environment. You start running into a lot of time that you spend just trying to manage and keep your environment up to date and in sync, when in fact all you just wanted to do was test out those constructs.
Peter, if I could jump in just for a second. You're on the
Sure.
you're on the second bullet here, and there's just a comparison to the front end. I wanted Matteo just to say a word about if we had this simulation environment where you could work with models, it could replace the front end configuration. You could also work on the GUI out of the same. You'd be working GUI and model.
Yeah, I don't see any problem in doing that. I think just piece of the GUI abstraction of this.
And what, I remember there being a discussion about the tool set for building GUIs off of these models. Can you remember that discussion?
Yeah. So it was just the beginning of the discussion, but there are basically two approaches we can take to generate a GUI for this backend. We can probably generate most of it too, as we are doing today with Django. And we can either auto-generate the file and generate some code that can get used to the browser, from the browser, or create some components that get dynamically configured to represent the model we have in the end.
Okay, thanks. So this is just trying to tie together that this isn't just playing with models. This could be a lot of the kind of front-end work that happens as well. Go on, and let's. I want to get pretty quickly here to the collaborations and the connections to other projects. So Peter, just a quick wrap up of what you were walking through.
Sure. Yeah, the emulation, it gives us a lot of advantages. And when we talk about modeling, I mean, right now we're, talking about the models in terms of the platform itself. And yeah, as Matteo and Larry just pointed out, you could really model a lot of different things. And having the fundamental data being model-based allows us to layer in a lot of different views into that model itself, and that carries over into the front-end components as well. The components themselves could actually be models. I mean, you could have list-based models or tabular models, and model those components and just layer them together with the views in terms of what kind of data you want to access and how. But carrying on, another aspect is really simplifying the service onboarding. So currently, as I was going through some of the exercise, creating this initial reference implementation, if you kind of take a look at the current onboarding process that is required from a service developer, it's quite extensive. I mean, there's a lot of steps involved. I mean, that create a lot of classes and extensions and things like that. And it's really in order for it to actually test that, you still have to see similar issues. The approach we took was to really try to capture the service developer as being at the center of the universe. So basically, instead of the service being a piece of the platform, we wanted the service themselves to be able to express what are all the pieces of the platform they need. And so since this is just model-based relationships, what ends up happening is that as the service wants to become actualized, it's actually being able to pull in the models from the platform that it needs, and you're able to then self-actualize in terms of coming into operation. And there's similar construct alongside that really helps in how it really simplifies the process for the service folks to be able to express their capabilities, their models, and really to describe the operational needs and the facilities that they also provide. So you could do things like chaining between services. You could pull in another service model into your own service, so on and so forth, to really create a very composition-based way of designing your dependencies. So just in brief, we did have a project that we have published and has been updated in GitHub. Right now it's hosted in the Cornova repository, but we're going to quickly move that over once we go through this formal adoption process to have that be officially hosted by Open Cord project. Hopefully under the name Composer, and we have other plans we want to add on top of this, to in some cases kind of reproducing some of those capabilities that Django frameworks provide, such as an admin web user interface, and ability to extend that into the front end so that you can more flexibly work with these models. And we'll be having ongoing efforts to kind of synchronize and keep those Yang representation-based models and map them closely with the Django-based implementation models. And there's, we see a lot of opportunities in other types of tools that we can then kind of bring to bear as we identify the need, and really helping to simplify the overall process of keeping those models and other things in sync. As far as the other outreach in terms of the overall community engagement.
Peter, just a second before we get to that, I want to stop and see what questions there might be in the room on the sort of the technical aspects of the project. I mean, my view, this is a slightly different perspective, but we have been building abstractions and models, but not in the rigorous way that that Peter would approach the problem. But they're based upon the pain of having built something that runs, and that's very valuable to him. So bringing the the pragmatic experience that we've had together with the more rigorous modeling, and then as a consequence of that, we have the emulation environment. B, we can simplify service onboarding. And C, we have a representation of what we've done that is now available to the rest of the world in a language they understand, which is Yang. And well, it's a modeling language. That Yang is sort of secondary. So go ahead.
So I'm trying to understand if this is just a Yang representation of current abstraction in XOS, right? Slices, networks, instances, and so on.
And services.
And services. So that's where my question comes, right? I mean, how? I mean, it's not like the world is sitting quiet on Yang models representing services, right? There's IETF drafts for services that people understand in, like you say, this language that people seem to understand. So how much effort is there going to be to not just move to the language that people seem to understand, but also the service definitions that other people are?
Well, there's two sides to that, and that is we're not taking the rest of the world's word on services as gospel truth. We think that we can influence that. And in fact, as we talked to Brian Sullivan, Brian Friedman, and these folks at AT&T that are really paying attention to this, and there's a lot of open questions there. For just as one example, they're using Tosca to talk about the infrastructure and Yang to talk about the services. And we're saying, well, we do configure the infrastructure through Tosca, but we now have Yang up and down that stack, and that's a completely new thing to them. So I think the answer is this is a way for us to express what we're doing in a language that now allows us to go into that arena and incorporate what we learned and influence what everyone else is doing. And that is called out. There's, for example, a couple of OPNFV projects, I think is the right word, right off the bat.
Yeah. So to add to Larry's point, a lot of the Yang-based modeling work currently is focused around service configuration and more or less on a kind of device basis. So a lot of the Yang models are kind of very bottoms up at this point, and a lot of the definitions that are taking place. When it comes to the service abstractions, especially when it's dealing with the platform level type service constructs, a lot of those things are in pseudo shapes. I mean, it's not very well defined yet, and therefore, I mean, it's a really interesting opportunity where, as Larry mentioned, we could really be influencing a lot of these constructs. And it's also about putting it out there and having folks take a look at it and see how they could then extend or adapt or evaluate, which also provides a lot of value. So as we engaged with different types of organizations, such as we spoke with the Open Config guys who are creating a lot of these kind of common models and such for the actual network function services and things like that. Looking at their models and how we could leverage some of those definitions. Also working closely with OPNFV and their constructs around the virtual network service descriptors and things like that. And then we started taking a look at a lot of the infrastructure models, cloud controllers, stack abstractions, and such. And then later even on top of those, the XOS type models that are providing the slice abstractions and a lot of nifty constructs for allowing services to be flexibly composed. So taking a look at the model from an end-to-end perspective and recognizing that there are definitely gaps in the standards and industry efforts. It's a good way for us to express these constructs and these abstractions and be able to socialize and have folks be able to look at it, evaluate, and it also makes it easier for us to absorb other efforts that are underway from modeling and actually evaluate them for their merits in terms of how we might influence our models or just simply absorb and import those models in.
So if I could interject just to highlight a couple of things Peter said. One is a lot of the effort right now is Yang as a configuration. And his interest is and what AT&T's interest is long-term is actually Yang as a way of composing services.
Sure.
And so that's a big, and that's why at the last minute, because we wanted a better name, we settled on Composer because that's the end game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much in support of this work, and my only caution that I wanted to throw out was don't do this work in isolation.
No. So
right?
I had hoped that we would have a longer list of collaborators, but we were waiting on that. But it's an iterative process. It's not like the OPNFV guys are going to say, oh, hey, let's join the Cord working group. The Cord working group has to be there, and then we establish a connection with them. So Promise is the first one here, and actually Peter is the connection between the two. And the OPNFV Promise is a modeling, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's a modeling effort about the Vim layer of the OPNFV. And XOS has a counterpart to that called a slice. And so that, I think, and I'd like to hear Peter comment on this, what we have to say about that, I think, in his view, adds value to where Vim is. And that's what this is trying to get to, I think.
Yeah, when we did this implementation exercise, we actually fused those things together. So the Cord and the XOS models actually are utilizing the Vim abstraction models that were created in the Promise project. So as the Vim models improve, the Cord models improve, and vice versa. So it's a nice cohesive way in which you could take layered approach on different aspects of the domain that the models are solving, and you could then just import those in and use that as part of your model-based abstractions. So it really helps to make some of those slice constructs be really expressive.
If this takes, it could be pretty big for us because the Vim layer is what the OPNFV services are being written to. So if we unify across those two, then any service written to Vim will be able to run on our in Cord. So that, I think that could be a big one. Are there other questions or concerns, thoughts?
I don't quite understand the goals of the project.
The goals, the highest level goal, it is to create a manifestation of Cord that is consumable by the rest of the world that speaks Yang. That's an external facing value. Internally, we think we can improve a couple of the development aspects of what we do. One, there will be a cleaner and simpler way of specifying a service to be imported into Cord. And two, we have a richer front-end environment for doing front-end development. Those would be the two tangible
bullet points, right? These are the goals, the main objectives. Goals.
Yeah, I don't understand how this. So, what are the? I don't understand what is proposed to achieve these goals.
The project.
I understand that, but what does the project do?
Well, the project acts towards those goals, and it will have a set of tasks, and there is an initial called medium term. These aren't like due tomorrow, but that would be the plan of attack to make progress towards those three goals. So a very immediate thing we're going to do is take a Yang representation of our services and show how those can be imported into Cord. And that you can walk up to Cord with a Yang model and we could get it up and running.
Yeah, so if you take a look at the reference implementation, it's not just the collection of variety of Yang models that we created. It's using a variety of tools to help to create that emulation. So we're able to take the models and use a lot of auto generation. We auto generate all the RESTful API interactions. It follows the REST conf-like style, which tends to be where the Yang-based REST implementations are going nowadays. We also have auto documentation generation. We also can auto generate Swagger and Open API specifications directly from the Yang models. We're able to then use that to provide dynamic browsable API interfaces that you could then test and mock, emulate different types of inputs and outputs. And so the pieces that we're also, wanting to do is to, leverage that to on the front end side as well, to have components and such to really simplify the way in which you could visualize a lot of these model information, provide, admin-like input-output in terms of being able to configure things effectively. So some of those things that you're getting from Django, but you still need to, do a lot of coding for. We want to be able to create a really easy to use, I guess, in a lack of a better word, environment where folks could really experience the abstractions that the core platform as a whole provides. The essence of the control systems, the applications and capabilities. We want folks to be able to easily consume those without needing to start writing code to work with a lot of those constructs. So those things are there, and we also captured some a couple of services that we have already onboarded or as part of the emulation environment, which is the VOLT service and the VSG service. And there's also a sample service, and it kind of shows you how you could create a Yang model, a brand new Yang model even for a service, how you import the different types of platform modular requirements, and then be able to run it essentially. And have that be part of the platform. So we kind of provided that overall walkthrough in terms of the reference communication.
So, Ali, do you get it?
Not really, but okay. I mean, I just don't really buy this.
Don't value it. You get it. You don't think.
It's not that I don't value it. It's that I don't buy it. I've never seen it working. I've never seen anything like that work. So.
Well, we have a feature, Epic, penciled in for the next release. If it blows up and fails miserably, then it doesn't work, and if we can deliver on it, then it's a proof of delivery. And I mean, it's not like we're starting with zero work done. There's been several months.
Cord meeting. The Cord Tst meeting.
Someone is live online.
Yeah, but it's moved to today.
So, any other comments from the TST? We can officially vote, but we typically do that through objection.
Yep.
Fine. Andy? Negative or abstain?
Right.
Okay. All right, I think have approval for it then. Thanks, Peter. And Peter's going to be here tomorrow, I think, and afternoon, and and maybe there'll be some time for that as well.
Today is a Cord Tst meeting. I wish we will come at 11. Yes. The Cord Tst.
Ping Ping, is that you?
Tst.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi.
Just mute everybody, Larry.
How do I mute everybody?
I know. Well, thanks, Larry. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be there around 3 p.m. And anyone who wants to join, we talk a lot more about this project and walk through some of the things we have implemented. And and obviously, this is a proposal. I mean, we're open to taking additional feedback and see what other areas we could focus on, how to clarify our messaging better. All things are good. So I'd love to have that discussion.
Okay.
Anyone who's interested. Yeah.
Thanks, Peter.
All right, thanks, guys.
If you want to drop off, that's fine. We actually have a second agenda item, but we have no one here to talk about it, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I'll drop. I do need to start heading out to the airport. So, all right, thanks, guys.
Fine.
Hmm.
So no one online from RSS? No. Okay. Nor do we have David. Okay. Are there other topics to take up? Got an eCord discussion this afternoon. You guys have made wonderful progress.
How do you know?
I just seen you working really hard. We have an XOS review meeting in the tomorrow morning. Is there anything else? All right, thanks everyone.